Welcome to my journey through the Bible. This will be a summary of 2 Samuel 2, verses 1 through 32. And David asked the Lord, should he go up to any of the cities of Israel? And the Lord said, go. And David said, which one should I go to? And the Lord said, you should go to Hebron. Now David took his two wives, his men, and his households to the city of Hebron. The men of Judah came out and anointed David to be their king, and they also told him of the men of Jesse that had buried Saul. So David sent message to these men and said, may the Lord bless you for the kindness that you have shown to Saul in burying him. May the Lord also show you this kindness, as I will show you this kindness. May your hand be strengthened, because your master Saul has been killed, and the men of Judah have anointed me to be king. But Abner, who was the captain of Saul's army, made his son to be king over Israel. Now he was 40 years old when he began his reign, and he only reigned for 2 years. David ruled over the house of Judah for 7.5 years. And the captain of his army was Joab. And then one day, Joab and Abner had met, each one of them on each side of the pool of Gideon. Now Abner said to Joab, let us choose 12 men from each side to fight. And Joab agreed, and every one of the young men began to thrust their sword into one another. And this was a great battle that day. Now Abner was beaten, and the men of Israel were beaten by the servants of David. So Joab had 2 brothers. Asahel was a very fast runner, and as Abner and the men had turned to leave, Asahel had ran after Abner and would not turn to the right or to the left. And then Abner turned to him and said, are you not Asahel? And he said, I am. And Abner said, turn to the side and take one of the young men's armor. But Abner would not. And Abner said, turn to the side, or I will smite you. And then how will I show my face to Joab, your brother? Asahel remained to go after him and would not stop. So Abner grabbed a spear and pushed it into Asahel's 5th rib. Asahel fell down dead, and many of the men stopped when they came to the body of Asahel. But Joab and his brother continued to pursue after Abner until the sun had went down. And then the children of Benjamin had gathered together on top of the hill with Abner. And then Abner had called out to Joab and said, will the sword devour forever? And how know that this day will be the bitterness that lasts for days? And how long will you follow after your brethren? And Joab had called out and said, surely as the Lord lives, unless you would have spoken, we would have continued to pursue up the hill and fight against our brethren. But Joab had blew the trumpet, and all the men stood still, and they no longer pursued after Israel. So Abner and the men that were with him had walked over and passed over the Jordan. Now Joab and his men returned back to Hebron, and David's servants had lost 19 men, plus Asahel was buried in Bethlehem. But the men that followed after Abner was over 300 men that lost their life that day. May God be with you in everything and in every way.